Hi everybody, Derek here from Crua. We've just put this video together to run you through the various steps in setting up and taking down the Crua Cottage. So first of all, when you get your cottage, you're going to get it in 3 bags, one with the outer tent and all the bits that go with that, one with the inner tent or the insulated cocoons, both bedrooms remember, and the 3rd bag here in the middle with all of the poles. So I'm going to go ahead, take everything out of the bags, and then we'll run through exactly what you get. So here I've emptied out the 3 bags, and over starting on the left hand side you'll see our 2 insulated bedrooms, the cullas or the cocoons. You'll see the poles, so here you have the colour coded main body steel poles, and you'll also have vertical poles for the actual porch. You have 2 footprints, one for the porch area and one for under the tent itself, and the stakes in their own bag. And here you have the carpet for inside in the tent and the main body of the tent itself. So we're going to go ahead, take all this apart, and we'll start by laying out the footprint that goes under the tent body. Okay, so we've actually laid out the main footprint here for the tent, staked out in the 4 corners. You can adjust it again later if necessary, but that gives you an idea of where the tent is now going to be. The next step is to roll the tent itself out on top of the footprint. And then after that we're going to assemble the poles. So the poles are held together by this shock cord in the middle, this wire shock cord. So we're going to put all of those together without actually assembling the frame. So once we put them together, we're going to place them on top of the tent of where they'll be going into the sleeves, and after that then we'll join the whole frame together, and that's what will ultimately give the tent its shape and its structure. Now, we've put all of the poles through the sleeves and we've just started joining them together. So that's the curved poles being joined to the vertical poles as well. Again, all remember colour coded. Our next step now, once this is finished, is to put the pins into the bottom of the poles. Now we start in the middle on the red poles, and that will pop the middle of the tent up. So that will give the centre of the tent its structure. Once the middle of the tent is actually up, it's our last chance really to kind of readjust it. If we need to readjust it in any way, just make sure the tent is facing the right way, the way you want it to face, because once that section is up and we start working our way out, it becomes much more difficult to readjust. So again, start with the middle, red, we're going to put the pins in the bottom, we're going to work our way out on either end, and then finish by putting up the porches, the sunroom at this side and the porch or the vestibule on the other end. So now we've actually put the tent up, so as you can see it has taken its shape. Chris is now going around and guying. He's going to stake out all the guy lines all the way around the tent, and he's also going to stake the bottom of each pole. Very important, you don't know when the weather is going to change. You need to stake out your tent and guy out your tent properly at all times. We're then going to put up the sunroom at the front. You can see the poles are already in there. Also at the back, the vertical aluminium poles are in place. The next step after that is to open the vents. So there are vents. You can see braced vents at the bottom of the tent here. There's also vents at the back under each window. Very, very important to make sure those vents are open all the time. So we'll go through that. Once all of that is done, we'll move to the inside of the tent and we'll put up the inner tent, the cocoon, the collar on either end, and we'll lay out the carpet. Right, so now we've staked out all the tent, including the guy lines and at the bottom of each of the poles. We've put up both porches. A couple of things to remember here about the vents. So you can see the braced vents along the bottom, very, very important that they're always open. You can also see there's a vent here at the window. So there's an actual zip here that you open up and you guy out the bottom of the window. That makes sure there's loads of fresh air flowing in under the window at all times. If you want to even maximize that further, you can roll this whole window up and toggle it at the top, and that literally opens it up to the bug mesh. But at the very least, always undo the zip on either side and guy out the bottom corners, and make sure that your external braced vents are always open as well. So now we've moved to the inside of the tent. We've actually rolled out the insulated carpet. Just something to note here, the carpet does the full section in the middle, the living area, but also does 1 bedroom area. So you have the option of just using 1 bedroom and leaving this as all living space. And obviously if you're putting up the 2nd bedroom, the carpet just goes underneath. So the last step now is to actually put up those 2 cocoons. There's 2 bedrooms on either side, the cullas, and then we're ready to camp. Okay, so we've put up the insulated bedroom here, as you can see. There's 2 rows of clips around the back and around the front. Color coded again, so it's good to start with the color coded, or at least be in line with the color, red to red, yellow to yellow at the back. We'll always start at the 2 corners and work our way up, and then work our way forward from there. You'll notice at the back as well, we've rolled up the vent, the curtain over the vent, so that gives you a nice fresh air right from the outside right in, which is really, really important. Again, when the tent is occupied, there should always be a vent open. And when you're sleeping in this area, remember, we want cross ventilation, so very, very important. Either you have the back vent and one of the side vents down low if your tent has those. If it doesn't have the bottom vents, then you should leave the door open a little crack as well, just to get that nice fresh air flowing through the bedroom at night. So now next we're going to show you how to put on the reflective fly sheet if you're using that with your tent. And after that we're just going to show you how to take the whole thing down and pack it away. To put your reflective fly sheet on the Crua Cottage, we've just laid it out. Make sure you get the shape right so it's very obvious. Either end and the middle section, it follows the shape of the top of the tent. So lay it out, 2-person job, 1 on either side, and we're just going to walk it forward from the back of the tent right over to the other side, and then we'll go to the other side of the porch, pull it forward, and then make sure it's laying correctly on the tent, and then we'll get to the guy lines after that. Once the reflective fly is placed on the cottage, you'll notice that there are a series of these slits right through everywhere that a guy line needs to come through. So that means you unfasten the guy line from its hoop at the top, you bring it through the slit in the bottom, back around and through the slit at the top again, and make sure that you fasten the guy line very securely, because remember that wind can come up at any stage, even when the weather is good. So if you just feed it through this guy and make sure you fasten it very securely with a knot that's not going to slip. So the next thing to do is to stake out the guy lines all the way around once again. So we follow the same process all the way around the tent. We will come back to actually stake out the bottom of the reflective fly sheet as well. That stakes out too, and it stakes out separate to the tent. So you don't stake it into the tent, you actually stake it out from the tent, but we'll go through that step later. I just want to point out here a really important thing to remember when you're staking out the bottom of the reflective fly sheet all the way around the tent. Just make sure that you stake it out from the tent, well out from the tent. You'll see there's elastic bungees here and also separate stakes. That just makes sure and means that there's plenty of airflow between the reflective fly sheet and the tent itself, and you always want that. And you can also see under here there's a vent and it's uninhibited, there's nothing in the way. You want to make sure there's nothing getting in the way of those vents, the fly sheet or anything else. So again, just to remember, stake that well out from the tent. I would say at least 15 to 20 centimeters out from the tent, more if you wish. Again, just enabling the airflow at all times between the reflective fly sheet and the tent itself. So there you have it, the Crua Cottage reflective fly sheet. Really handy for keeping the tent cooler, especially on days like today. So now your camping trip has come to an end. It's time to take down the Crua Cottage. So we're going to walk you through the various steps involved in that. We're first of all going to start on the inside and work our way out. So we'll start taking down the insulated bedrooms, the carpet, anything that's inside in the tent. Obviously remember in there that you don't want to roll anything up, so the first piece of advice is get all the stuff out of the bedrooms and all the stuff out of the tent, get that put away, and then we go move to the tent. So we're going to start, as I say, with the insulated cocoons on either side, the carpet, get everything out of the tent, closing down the curtains and the doors, etc., because you don't want them all closed up. They literally just bulk everything up when you're trying to roll it up later on. Okay, so we'll go inside and start there. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're starting now with the insulated cocoon, the colour inside. So I'd always close the zips, as I said, to avoid any kind of bulk. Leave a little gap though, because as you try and roll it up, you want the air to escape. So leave a little gap on the bottom. And then we're just going to start unclipping right around. So all the clips from the first row, and then we'll work our way back in. Once they're all unclipped, we simply roll it, tie it up with the compression straps and put it into its bag. Okay, so now we've packed away the inner tents, the cocoons or the cullas and the carpet. It's time to move on to the outer tent. So the first steps are closing all the curtains, because again you don't want them just bulking up when you're trying to roll the tent later on. And we're going to drop the doors exactly for the same reason. So that's the first step. Then we're going to move outside the tent. We're going to go all around and take up the guy lines. We'll leave one or two just to keep it stable, but we'll take down off the majority of them, and then we'll move on to the poles after that. Okay, so now we have our guy lines neatly tucked away. We've taken up all the stakes. The next thing is we're going to start on the poles, and when we start on taking away the poles, we start at the four sides first. So we're going to the porch at this end, and we're going to take away the vertical at the other side as well. And then once these are taken out and put away neatly, we go to either end. So starting with the yellow poles, working our way into the black, and then the last thing we take down are the red poles, or that main body of the tent inside. One other thing to note as you go along, you can close up your vents again, just undo the brace and secure the Velcro like that. It just protects the brace while the tent is in store, but remember again, every time you put up the tent, all the vents are open. Quick note when you're taking the poles out, just take the pin out at the base first on both sides, because then you're not fighting against anything, and these guys will slip out a lot easier out of each other, and then subsequently out of the sleeves. Okay, so now that we've taken away all the other poles, we're into our red poles. So the exact same theory applies. We're going to undo the pins on all four corners, then we'll be able to slip it away, and the tent itself will just quite simply drop down. Again, two-person job. Okay, so all the poles are out. They're disassembled over here. They're ready for packing away shortly, back into their bag. Next step is to actually roll the tent. So what we do is we're going to fold it in from one side, fold it again in from the other side, and then roll from one end to the other. That means it'll pack away nice and neatly back into its bag. Then we're going to fold up the footprint as well. That goes into the same bag, along with the other two footprints for each porch, and then we'll be able to lock that away. So there you have it, the setup and takedown of the Crua Cottage and the reflective fly sheet for the Crua Cottage. If you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to reach out to us on support@cruaoutdoors.com at any time, and one of our team will be back to you straight away.